So a very warm welcome to everyone here. I hope I'm clearly audible to everyone. If yes, just do this. Great. So this is Dr. Kashmira, and on behalf of Delcash Global Physiotherapy, I welcome all the parents and grandparents here for this seminar. We are just a brief introduction about us. We are physiotherapists and we have our clinic in South Mumbai. We are practicing since 11 years. And we started our online classes during the pandemic, that is 1.5 years back. And we've been conducting a lot of seminars for adults on various physical ailments, including back pains, neck pains, and core muscle strengthening, knee pains, diabetic management, etc. We've been doing that since the past 1.5 years on an online platform. And we have a lot of WhatsApp groups where we share health related information. We almost have 9 WhatsApp groups with a participant strength of 1,500 members with us. And we have 5 WhatsApp groups for parents and children for the various kids activities that we have undertaken currently. We just had a posture class for children and we had a wonderful participation strength of more than 150 participants for that class. And today we have with us Mr. Pravin Mankar, who's here to help us and guide the parents on a very important topic, parenting. He's been taking a lot of classes on life and breath on an international platform, and he really transforms lives with his teachings. We've been his students as well, and we strongly recommend his knowledge to everyone. So thank you so much, Pravin sir, for joining us today. And please help the parents here to understand and unleash their potentials to a better parenting. I'll just give you the unmute.
Thank you, Kashmira. I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, you're audible, sir.
And the screen is visible?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go straight into the subject because it's a vast subject and 1 hour is not sufficient to deal with such an important subject. So parenting is essentially about parents and not about children. We have this conception that, oh, parenting is about how to deal with children. It's how to deal with yourself. Basically, the understanding necessary to deal with any subject, essentially with human beings, is very poor. And that's the whole basis of the problems that human beings face. We don't understand the subject, but we deal with the subject. And you take any subject in your life, we deal with that subject with inadequate understanding, lack of understanding, distorted understanding. Whatever is our understanding is not appropriate, and therefore we face difficulties. Based on understanding, the next step is, of course, decision making, because as is your understanding, so is your decision making. If you understand the subject correctly, your decision regarding that subject will be correct, and consequently, the actions you take pertaining to that subject would turn out to be correct. So the whole subject is about understanding, deciding, and acting. Understanding what? Not understanding parenting, understanding yourself. What is your role in this whole picture? What is your role in this drama called life? And your children happen to be one component of that drama, and they come into your life after you have spent a considerable time on earth. So what is this all about? Let's have a look. It's about the father and the mother, and we as parents have to deal at the pre-birth stage, from the birth of the child up to 2 years of his or her growth, 2 to 6 years, 6 to 12 years, 12 to 15 years, and 15 to 18 years. After 18 years, they are considered as adults, and parental interference, so to speak, should diminish. It sometimes doesn't happen. So we must understand our roles at different phases of life. The whole subject of living is about time and space. And it is this time and space that gets crowded, which allows for poor maneuverability, and therefore we struggle in dealing with situations. In case of pre-birth, right from the time of conception of the child till the delivery of the child, there is a phase which is new for the first time parents. They have never gone through this experience before. There are a lot of things which are new in terms of physical changes, hormonal changes, mental equilibrium, dealing with situations, relationship issues, all these things do matter at that stage. But, and this may not apply to many of you at this stage, but it applies to people who are planning to be parents. That's the first stage of your child when you are planning to be a parent. Many times we become parents either by accident or by design in our eagerness to be parents. But we never consider the emotional factor in conceiving a child. And when you say emotional factor, it is your state of mind when you are conceiving your child. It is your state of mind and your spouse. Both of you are participants in conceiving that child. And in what frame of mind did you conceive that child is a very important aspect, which most parents are not aware of, or they don't pay enough attention to this. And why am I bringing this subject up as important? When you educate your children or grandchildren when they are about to start a family, this is an important consideration. You look at your eyes. Your eyes are a reflection of the state of your mind. When you are angry, your eyes reflect anger. When you are sad, your eyes reflect sorrow. When you are happy, your eyes radiate joy. So why am I picking up eyes? Because eyes are a window to your state of mind. But eyes are also representatives of cells of your body. Every cell in your body is reacting similarly to whatever emotion you are undergoing. So if you are undergoing anger, every cell in your body is experiencing that state of anger. If you are undergoing anxiety, every cell in your body is experiencing anxiety. So your whole body as such is a reflection of your current state of mind. Now, if in that state of mind you are planning to conceive a child and you are conceiving a child, that means two cells of the body are released, one from the woman and one from the man. If they are in a negative frame of mind, the cells, the sperm and the ovum, are also experiencing that emotion. And the union is not a very happy union, but we don't give it that much thought. Sometimes it is out of dominance that one partner is trying to dominate, and okay, it's a conquest. Sometimes it is out of submission, sometimes it is out of compulsion, sometimes it is out of social pressures. Oh, people have started asking, why are you not conceiving, why have you not had children? So we have different objectives when we are planning to conceive a child, and that's not a very conducive environment for a baby to be conceived. So emotionally, two cells are coming together, not in necessarily happy circumstances. That's why I said pre-birth. Pre-birth is an important stage. Then whatever care you take after conception, physically and emotionally, are again important aspects of uh, developing your child. At certain stage, many of the organs of the child are formed in the body, and there have been experiments conducted where the father speaks to the baby while it is still in the womb, and the baby comes out with a better IQ. It is claimed. I mean, I don't know whether there is scientific evidence to that. Then, once the child is born, you are dealing with the child at different levels. From 0 to 2, The child is totally dependent on the mother and the father for the love, care, attention, physical comfort. So basically, you are tending to the physical needs of the child from 0 to 2. But remember that child has its sense is developing. The eyes are functioning, the nose is functioning, the ears are functioning, the sense of touch is functioning, the sense of taste is developing. So all these sensory organs are functioning. Whatever you expose the child to at that stage, the child will pick up very easily because it is a fresh sponge. It will absorb anything and everything that it is subjected to. From 2 to 6, the identity of the individual is getting formed. You will see a little bit of stubbornness starting to creep in the baby once it is nearing the age of 2. So it has started expressing itself. Certain foods it doesn't like, it will simply wave the hand and throw away the dish that you are holding, trying to feed the baby. So there is an expression coming out from the child. From 2 to 6, the child is still a very high capacity sponge ready to absorb anything and everything. Couple of experiments come to mind, tried in different countries. In Russia, there was an experiment conducted with newborn babies, immediately thrown in a tank of water at 37 degrees. And surprisingly, the babies did extremely well because air is a new environment for a newborn child. Water was not a new environment, especially at 37 degrees, because that was the environment in which the baby was in the womb of the mother. So when the baby was subjected to a water tank, surprisingly, they found that the babies could swim. Here in India, we are so careful about babies. Oh, पानी में डूब जाएगा, संभालो, पानी में मत जाने दो. We are so careful about our children for a very long period of time. But this experiment proved that babies are natural swimmers. Another experiment was conducted when a baby was subjected to an exposure to 3 foreign languages. So there was an Oriental language, Japanese, there was an African language, Swahili, and there was Spanish language. It was an English-speaking family, and a baby was subjected to 3 languages simultaneously. By the age of 3, the baby was proficient in all 3 foreign languages, including the mother tongue English. So this proves that when you think that the baby is too small, we are doing some sort of atyachar, jabardasti, zulm by subjecting the baby to a lot of education. That's not true. Actually, that's the right time to give as much input to the baby as possible without subjecting it to the trauma or the stress of having to appear for an exam. So 2 to 6 years are your most crucial years in cultivating a baby. 6 to 12 years is fun, joy, exploration, socializing, all those skills start cultivating in the baby. It's also a period where sense of responsibility needs to be instilled in the child because now he is going to reach a stage at the age of 12 when he will be entering into a very difficult phase in his life about hormonal changes, trying to understand what's going on. And then he's neither a child nor an adult. So at an awkward stage, not acceptable in the children category, not acceptable in the adult category. So there's a huge amount of confusion at that 12 to 15 year stage. 15 to 18, you have started to find your feet. Yeah. You have started to associate with your peers in school, on the threshold of university education, a lot of excitement, a lot of new things to explore and imbibe in life. So again, an age where the parent need to watch the child. So this is just a brief uh, background to the role of the parent at different stages in your child's life. Now you can't remain the same person throughout your interaction with your child because your child is evolving. Do you evolve as a parent as your child is evolving? Yeah, maybe some mothers keep up with what's going on in school, or some fathers do that. What subjects are you learning? So let me try and understand your subject so that I can take your homework. Or if I'm incapable, then let me put you in some extra classes where you will gear up and learn those things. But those are not well programmed moves on behalf of the parents. They are groping, they are trying to catch up with the environment that is changing. Like, for example, parents of my age group struggled to transit from paper to paperless society. And we come from an era where writing a check and signing a check was a very important aspect of our life. Suddenly, to come to internet banking and all, it required a little bit of an extra effort to transit. And children born in that era proved to be very proficient in paperless activities. So there is an impression created that the child is smarter than the parent, probably is more intelligent. But that doesn't necessarily make him smarter because he is not yet exposed to the ways of the world. The smartness comes from being out there on the street and absorbing the lessons that life teaches you. Unfortunately, many parents take a step backward when they see that their child is more proficient in the newer technologies. So this is just a brief introduction into the confusion of the parents because the society is evolving. The parents don't necessarily evolve at the rate at which the society is evolving. The children are sharper because they are not yet crowded mentally with the worries of the world. So they are fresh and they can pick up a lot of new ideas which parents struggle to pick up. Let's come to the age of the parents. Why do parents struggle with children? One is there is a generation gap. So you have been cultivated in a society, in an environment which your children have never seen. You were brought up probably in a joint family. Your children would not even know what a joint family is. You were accustomed to an elderly aunt or an uncle scolding you if you did something wrong. Today's child is not accustomed to any outsider scolding him. And therefore, there is an immediate reaction when any other adult talks to your child. We were accustomed to our teachers punishing us in the classroom. If we did any mistake, my teacher would cane me. My palm would have a red mark on it, and it would remain for 3-4 hours. So I would be hiding my palm from my mother, that she see it, and she would ask what happened in school. And it was pretty normal to expect a caning from my teacher in school. Today, if a teacher canes a student in school, there is a big furor. The parent will go running to the school and say, "How dare you touch my child?" The child sometimes screams at the teacher and say, "My father doesn't touch me. How dare you touch me?" It becomes a social issue, sometimes becomes a political issue. And many a times the teacher is made to feel sheepish in presence of that youngster. Parents are struggling with their environment versus the current environment. So this is a big struggle that parents have to face. The current environment has superimposed on the environment in which the parents grew up. So your subconscious mind is tuned to a certain set of circumstances to which your society was favorable to. Today's society is not favorable to those set of circumstances, and therefore there is a conflict in generation. Why children find parents overbearing? Because parents have this feeling that it is my responsibility, my duty to inculcate values in my child. So there is a lot of talking to the children. And when you talk to somebody, then invariably the ears are shut. When you talk with somebody, then there is a chance of a communication and a discussion. But when you talk down to somebody, then the child might be, because you are superior in size and age, he might pretend to be silent listener, but he's actually not listening to you. So what has been assumed by the parent as a responsibility is my duty to raise my child and it's my duty to see what I should teach him and all that. That does not necessarily work. And therefore, children will look for solace where they have an avenue for expression. Again, I come back to the subject of time and space. Sometimes children don't find that the parents give them enough time to express themselves. Sometimes there is no space for them to express their wish or their desire. Are grandparents better with children than parents? Number one, grandparents have more experience. Plus, grandparents have made mistakes with their children. So they have learned from their mistakes. So they know that if I now have a child, I will raise my child differently. They don't have the opportunity to have their own children, but they have the opportunity to deal with the children of the children. And therefore, through their mistakes, they have become wiser and they are able to deal with the grandchild much better. Secondly, they have more time on their hands because their day-to-day occupation is not occupying their time as much as the time of the parents. They are dealing with their profession, they are dealing with their jobs, they are dealing with the household chores. So the time availability to the parent is much less as compared to the grandparent. And therefore, you will notice that grandparents have a way with your children, and sometimes you feel jealous. How come my child relates more with my father or my mother instead of me? Now, to understand yourself, you must look at these are all mind games. Therefore, you must look at your mind first. Because if you understand your mind, it will be easy for you to understand your child's mind. Now, your mind is a product of the society in which you were born and brought up. So, there is a society mind that has created your mind. Whatever values you are carrying with you are a result of the way you were brought up. It all started at your conception in the womb of your mother. And it took 9 months for this baby in the womb of the mother to get formed. Neither your mother nor your father knew exactly what was happening for the 9 months. I mean, your parents couldn't predict which organ was fully developed by which day. They had no knowledge. Neither the baby had the knowledge. Yet, if you see all over the world, be it any corner, any continent, the human baby is formed perfectly and delivered within 9 months in normal course. There are some stray cases. Obviously, there must be a pattern or a design which is governed by somebody. Otherwise, such kind of perfect activity can never happen. If there is a program which is designed to deliver a human baby within 9 months, then who has written the program? Who has monitored the program, supervised the program? Because this activity is happening flawlessly. So that's something we call as the subconscious mind. So there is a subconscious mind operating this activity inside the womb of the mother. The subconscious mind, it's the baby's subconscious mind because who is constructing the baby? The baby itself is constructing under the guidance of the subconscious mind, which is again not independent. It is under the guidance of the universal mind. There is a universal pattern for the formation of human babies. There is a universal pattern for the formation of elephants, zebras, giraffes, or any other living being. Universal pattern. The baby's subconscious mind, under the guidance of that universal pattern, is forming itself, drawing the resources from the mother's womb. And now, within 9 months, the subconscious mind has guided a formation of a perfect human baby about to be delivered in the womb of the mother. And then the delivery happens. A perfect human being. Why am I saying perfect? Because every human being has a brain in the head, two eyes, one nose, 2 ears, 2 hands, 2 legs, liver, pancreas, spleen, heart. All the organs are in the exact same location proportionate to the body. So this perfect human being is delivered into this world. Now the society takes over. When I say society takes over, your parents, you as parents are part of the society. You take over. You're holding the baby in your hand. You're talking in whatever language you speak with your baby. You use whatever words you are familiar with using. Sometimes it is all nonsensical words. They are just sounds. Yeah, sometimes you will say mera sona, mera chandi, mera pittal, mera tamba, or you can say mera raja, mera rani, mera beta, and all those words come out of your mouth. So slowly the baby is now absorbing the touch of the parents, the touch of the environment, You're born in a cold climate, you have a cold environment to contend with. Up to now, you are in the nice warmth of 37 degrees in the womb of the mother. Suddenly, you are exposed to 18 degrees or even less than 18 degrees, or you are born in a hot country, in a hot climate. So, the baby is getting accustomed to certain new set of circumstances. For 9 months, the baby was exposed to a certain set of circumstances, and after birth, there is a big change. Now, the baby has to feed through its mouth. In the womb of the mother, the baby was fed by the umbilical cord. Now the mouth has to come into play. So there is a sense of taste that is developing. There is a sense of touch that is developing. There's a sense of smell that is developing. Sense of vision that is developing. You are born in a cold, wet country. You are seeing a dark atmosphere. You are seeing, you are feeling low temperatures. You are born in a hot, dry, sunny country. You are seeing a bright atmosphere. You are feeling the heat on the skin. So babies have to adapt to whatever circumstances they are born in. So that is the society in which that particular baby is born. Now comes the culture of the people. The culture starts playing its role on the baby through the mother, through the father, through the uncles and aunts, through the siblings, through school friends, through teachers. As the baby keeps growing up, there are a variety of influences that are happening on the baby, and these influences may not be the same influences which the parents have experienced as they grew up. Remember, parents' minds are hardened minds. They have been conditioned by the circumstances through which the parents have gone. And therefore, they try to think that their baby is similar to them, which is not true. Because the baby is going through an entirely different range of circumstances which the parent had never experienced. So the society mind starts imposing its imprint on the conscious mind of the baby. So the next step in the development of the baby is the consciousness. I now start as a baby becoming conscious of various things. And as I start interacting with people other than my family, I find differences which I have never experienced in my family. I find differences in language. My family speaks one language at home. I didn't hear the language in my family spoken by my friend in school. He speaks an entirely different tongue. I eat a particular type of food in my house. I didn't find my school friend bringing that type of food in his school ka dabba. So all these things are adaptations which the baby is making as it is growing up, and it is becoming more and more comfortable with in adapting to his new set of environment. The parents are not aware what are the environmental exposures the child is facing and conditioning itself to. And there the first mismatch starts happening. It is always the conflict of the society versus your tradition that is happening as you interact with your child. So you as a parent, you need to understand this. That where is the conflict? The conflict is in your mind because your child is exposed to certain different set of circumstances to which you were never exposed. Now let us look at the human mind. Human mind is essentially four compartments. And when I say four compartments, two compartments are outside and two compartments are inside. The subconscious mind and the conscious mind are inside you. The universal mind and the society mind is outside you. We already saw the role of the universal mind in cultivating the baby in the womb of the mother. The subconscious mind has already started operating inside the womb of the mother. As the baby is delivered, the subconscious mind remains. But now a new mind has started developing under the influence of the society. The universal mind follows universal laws and principles, which are never broken. It's like the law of gravity. The law of gravity brings all objects down. It's never broken. You will never find an exception in the law of gravity where an object is going up. Whether you are in America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, anywhere you go, the law of gravity always acts in the same manner. Similarly, the laws of the universe which are governing the birth of a baby are operating in perfection, in harmony. But the society operates with different laws created by the society. So let's take one common law that the society operates and we are all aware of. I am born in a Hindu family, or a Muslim family, or a Christian family, or a Parsi family. So immediately there is an imprint of the religion of my family on the child. Now the child goes out and he meets, so let's say a Hindu child from a Hindu family goes out and meets Christian friends and Muslim friends. So obviously there is a question mark in his mind that this is something new. I've never heard this in my house. So what is this? And then in his mind there is a debate. Probably there is an open debate with children of his own level. And many of the questions remain unanswered. And as friends in school, we learn to deal with it. We don't touch those touchy subjects with our friends. In school, the only objective is fun and games and camaraderie. As we grow up, all those hidden subconscious impacts start surfacing. Differences start surfacing as the child grows up. Therefore, you will see more conflicts of this nature in adults and less in children. So let's look at the properties of the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is a subjective mind. It never questions, it accepts. It never reasons, it never decides. But it also never sleeps. That's why your heart is functioning, your breath is functioning, all the internal organs in your body are functioning because they are under the guidance of the subconscious mind. They never fail. Even when you sleep, lungs are still exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. Stomach is still digesting the food that you ate for dinner. Heart is still beating at its normal rate. So these functions are under the influence of the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind never forgets. All the things that you might have forgotten are hidden in your subconscious mind. And a very simple example is of old photograph of your school days. And you can't even recognize yourself. You are such a tiny person, skinny person in that photograph standing in some corner, and then there is a class teacher sitting in the center. And your friend brings an old photograph from his house and shows you, do you remember this photograph? And you say, yes, it is our photograph. But then where are you standing? Where am I sitting? Who is this teacher? I've forgotten her name. What has happened? Conscious mind has forgotten. Then your friend tells you, oh, this is Mrs. Patel. Oh, yes, now I remember. How did you remember? Because it was there somewhere in your subconscious mind, hidden in your memory. Your friend triggered a recall of your memory and you remembered. So the important point is subconscious mind never forgets. It exists before birth, it continues to exist after birth. It's like a soldier that never disobeys the general's command. If the general says attack, the soldier will never say, are you crazy? There are 100, we are only 10. How can I attack? General has said attack, soldier simply attacks. There are no questions asked. The general says retreat. The soldier says, what are you saying? We are about to capture the town. Why are you asking me to retreat? Soldier never questions. General says retreat, soldier retreats. Subconscious mind is that obedient soldier. It will never question the general. We will see who is the general. And then the subconscious mind is a larger component of your mind. In your body, the total mind, if it is 100, then 90% of the total mind is the subconscious mind. So that brings us to the conscious mind. Conscious mind is the objective mind, reasoning mind, deciding mind. It sleeps, it forgets, it cultivates after you are born. It is the general of the army. It knows to give commands because it is a deciding mind. Who gives the command? The person who is able to decide can give the command. An indecisive person can never give a command. And it is only 1/10 of the whole mind. So if your mind is 100, then 10% is your conscious mind. This is a quick understanding of the mind. Now let's see how this mind gets developed. When I'm born, my mind is like an empty jar with a lid. Through exposure to the society, this jar is getting filled up with ideas and thoughts filled in my jar by the society. My society told me I am a Hindu or I am a Parsi or I am a Christian. Okay, so one layer got filled. So then my friend is not a Hindu, he is a Muslim or he is a Christian. So another thought came, there is a difference between him and me. Then somebody said, you are from a rich family. Oh, then there is somebody in the school who comes from a poor family. He depends on some charity for his fees to be paid. So I start getting exposed to differences. Then I start realizing that everything is not the same. There are certain things which are favorable and certain things which are unfavorable. My jar is now getting filled. It happens with everybody, not only you as a parent, but your child also. It is the cultivation of the consciousness. And the consciousness is entirely dependent on the society. The colors of the society are filled in the jar of your consciousness. Your society, when you were a child, had a different color. So your conscious mind had a different coloration. And since the conscious mind gives command to the subconscious mind, your subconscious mind got cultivated in a different coloration. You started using chalk and a slate in school. Today's children hardly use chalk and slate. Maybe in some Gao municipal school, they are still using chalk and slate. But today's children are having fancy articles. Today's children are even exposed to computers. And more so in the pandemic, now the education style is completely different. We were used to sharpening pencils. We were used to filling ink in a fountain pen. I'm not sure whether any child today is aware of a fountain pen. Yeah, we were used to replacing refills. Today's children are used to throwing pens and buying new pens. There is no concept of refill. So the whole concept has changed. The parents have to catch up with the changing society if they have to be in tune with their child. How the society influences the mind. So let's have a look. I was a baby, completely helpless from my 0 to 2 years. Then from 2 years to 6 years, I started crawling, walking, growing up. And then I became a child, a robust child. And from there, I grew into an adolescent and an adult. Now, here is one very stark example. I was born and brought up in a very decent family, good values, good traditions. I grew up to be an adult. I saw as an 18-year-old young, impressionable boy, a 16, 17-year-old beautiful girl passing on the road. I looked at her, I admired her looks, and because of my upbringing, end of story, I admired her silently. I naturally, hormonally got attracted to her, but my upbringing toned down my expression to silent admiration, appreciation. Imagine the same me, born in a family with iffy culture and iffy traditions. I grew up to be an 18-year-old boy in that kind of a family. I saw this beautiful girl passing by on the road. And because of my upbringing and the way my society dealt with women, I whistled. This was my expression. Why? Because my society cultivated me in that iffy culture where passing a comment or whistling when you see a beautiful girl is okay. That at that age it's a done thing. So my behavioral pattern was different. Then I was same person me, born and brought up in a society that considers woman a commodity to be used and discarded. I grew up to be an 18-year-old strapping young man. I see a girl walking past. I not only pass lewd comments, I make indecent proposals. And when the girl refuses me, I throw acid on her face. Same human being, born completely innocent as a baby. You see that child in the picture there on the left, extreme left, helpless, completely dependent on parents, innocent mind, grew up to be a man who was decent, semi-decent, and completely indecent. What is the influence? The influence is the society. It is the society that cultivates you. Now, parents are oblivious of the influences the society is having on your child. And though you are saying, we never did this, we come from a decent family, how dare you do such a thing when a parent is scolding a child? The parent is not aware what influences the society has had on your child. You are busy in your office, your child is at home watching TV. The advertisements on TV are not monitored. Advertisements have a huge impact on the watcher, especially an impressionable child. So I have my favorite hero smoking a cigarette. Legally, there is a slogan on the TV screen, cigarette smoking is injurious to health. Honestly, tell me how many children would read that slogan and take it seriously? Cigarette smoking is injurious to health. A 14-year-old boy, 15-year-old girl, 16-year-old, when they are watching their favorite hero smoking a cigarette in style, would they be reading the slogan or would they be admiring the hero, their favorite hero, smoking a cigarette? And then, who is to tell this child that what is shown on the screen is a complete no-no because these are the consequences? Because when you are watching a movie, you are totally engrossed in the storyline. You are part of the story. You identify yourself with the hero. And then this child grows up to be a citizen who has picked up all the things which he thought was the done thing in the society. Parents have no clue what was the exposure to the child. Suddenly, parents are shocked. Oh, my child is into drugs. Suddenly, money is disappearing from the house. Nobody in our family is into drugs. How did this fellow get into drugs? So we are also taking an escape route by saying, I'm extremely busy. I'm slogging for my family. I want to give them a good upbringing. I suffered as a child. I did not have all the privileges. I want to give all the privileges to my child. When you are in that zone, for you, privilege means material comfort. And that's not it. What your needs are very little. It's your greed that makes you go after material. It's your comparison with your peers that makes you go for material. You want your child to wear clothes parallel to what other children are wearing. You want your child to have all the goodies that are available in the market. You want your child to have the thumbs up and the other aerated drinks because it is a fashionable thing. The McDonald's and the Domino's and all the junk food that has no nutritional value has become part and parcel of your life. You have started pandering to the taste buds under the influence of society pressure. Society influences the mind not only of the child but also of the adult. The brain, which was fresh and young, pink and robust, has suddenly become dark and dirty and heavily loaded with a lot of negativity. And these influences have started reflecting in your life. Whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, your sense organs pick them up. Then, if you are aware of what you have seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched, you start applying your conscious mind, your reasoning. Your reasoning translates to emotions. Certain things you hate, your emotions are negative. Certain things you love, your emotions are positive. As is your emotion, so is your expression. So when you are happy, you smile. When you are angry, your face is scowling. And then that is your expression in life. Repeated expressions form memories and habits. Memories and habits become through expression and through patterns of thinking. Thinking influenced by society. So your memory is cultivated by society. My memory of everything is Hindu or everything is Muslim or everything is Christian is cultivated by thinking patterns influenced by the society in which I am being cultivated. These memories and habits become internal triggers for my emotions and feelings. So whenever I see a temple, I am very reverent. And whenever I see a mosque or a church, I am indifferent. because that's how my consciousness has been cultivated by the society in which I was born. For me, the society never taught me the concept of God, whether you call him Jesus or Vishnu. It is still the same God. My society never taught me that. My society taught me that superior. Jesus is superior. Allah is superior. So my consciousness is tailored according to my society influences. So when I see, hear, and smell things, for example, I see ads. My consciousness develops according to what the ads tell me. I hear foul words being regularly used by adults, by my heroes. Today, with Netflix and all that, the censor is completely gone. All the foul words are in your living room, very easily used by all the actors and actresses. So my child's vocabulary is quite different from my vocabulary. I get astounded when I hear my child using the word so easily, and there is not an iota of remorse I see on the face or in the eyes of the child, because for him it's a normal word. It's used by every adult. I smell food. I smell food cooked in my kitchen. My child has a very sour face, and when he smells the food as we are walking along the pavement and he smells McDonald's, his eyes light up. So the triggers are different, the expressions are different, the memories are different, the habits are different, and here is where the clash comes with the parents. Today I am seeing a red signal being broken impudently. Do you think my child will respect a red signal when he sees so many adults breaking the red signal? And not only adults who are uneducated, he sees educated adults breaking the red signal. Do you think my child will be respectful towards law? For him, law is of convenience. If there is a camera or if there is a policeman, I will obey the law. If there is no camera, no policeman, I will break the law. So wherever there is a possibility to break the law, I will break the law. And that applies to any and every situation in life. I see my icons. Today, cricket is being played with all sorts of gadgets. There is a stump vision and a stump mic. So when the wicketkeeper or the bowler is abusing, I can hear it very clearly. So here is one of my hero using abusive language. So it's a done thing. It's heard by millions of people across the world. Mike has caught what my favorite cricketer has spoken. So my ears get contaminated with that thought. And I think it is the done thing with no guidance. Parental guidance is missing in all the upbringing of today's child. Because the conversation and communication slowly starts drying up. We have not created a culture of communication in our families, and therefore there is a communication gap. The same thing with tastes. And then touch, and then you have these Me Too concepts. The conscious mind of the child has been cultivated differently. His subconscious mind has got different ideas. His emotions are triggered by different sensations, and his expressions and his life is vastly different from the life of the parent. On my street, there is a dog that has a very stiff tail, and the dog wags. But that's not the law of the universe. The law of the universe, the dog should wag the tail. On my street, the tail is wagging the dog. My senses are wagging my child. My senses are wagging my emotions. My child is being wagged by the society. I am not in control of that tail. The tail is wagging the dog is not wagging the tail. And this is the situation that most parents are facing today. Then you come to cerebral memory versus cellular memory, and this is where we fail. Now, this is your area of failure as parents. When I say your area, my area too. We failed in cultivating cellular memory. I learned 2 ones are 2 in school. Even today, I can recite it without error. I also learned 19 ones are 19 in school, but I cannot recite it because the number of times I practiced 2 ones are 2 versus the number of times I practiced 19 ones are 19 was vastly different. 2 ones are 2 it becomes cellular memory. I can recite even if you wake me up at midnight and I don't have to think about 2 ones are 2. Bicycle riding, I learned in school. I fell down, I banged against poles, I hurt myself, I injured myself. But today, if you give me a bicycle, I can ride a bicycle. I didn't go to any school to learn bicycle. I don't have a school leaving certificate showing that I know how to ride a bicycle. I have not paid any fees to learn how to ride a bicycle. But bicycle riding, I have not forgotten. It is cellular memory. At an old age, also, if you give me a bike, I will not fall down. Many subjects I learned in school, I have forgotten. It was cerebral memory which has evaporated. Cellular memory never evaporates. We do not cultivate cellular memory in our children. Cultivation of the habit of waking up at a particular time, doing up your bed, brushing your teeth, washing your own self, folding your own clothes, preparing your own bed, doing the work with your own hands. We don't cultivate a discipline in our child from day one. We let the child loose, saying that abhi wo chota hai. We pamper the child, we don't cultivate cellular memories, and suddenly one day we wake up and we try to inculcate discipline in our child. It is too late in the day. Your child to a hardened level of subconscious mind, which is now going to be very difficult. Once you have formed a hard image or a sculpture of clay, then you have to either break it or melt it. And that is difficult with human beings. And therefore, the important phase in your child's upbringing is 0 to 6. And you cannot simply preach or teach, you have to be an example. Habits are conditioned reflexes. Habits once formed are difficult to break. We have formed habits of thinking, we have patterns of thinking. The child thinks differently from the parent. You take even political affiliations, the child is supporting one particular party, the father is supporting some other party. We have formed habits of speaking. Our language is very casual. We are not very cultured in our language. So very easily foul words come out of our mouth. The child has been seeing this from childhood, hearing this from childhood. So he thinks it's a done thing. He thinks it's macho to use foul language. We have formed habits of doing certain things in certain patterns. I can wake up at 5 o'clock, I can wake up at 8 o'clock, I can wake up at 10 o'clock. There is no sense of discipline in my upbringing. Imagine today I am working from home, I have got flexible timings. When I was going to office, there was a fixed time. If I came 10 minutes late, I was permitted 3 days in a month to be 10 minutes late. After that, I would lose either half a day's leave or half a day's salary. Today, there is no such concept. So everything is changing, but we are struggling because we have not inculcated that discipline from day one in our child. We have formed habits of eating. We sit on our bed and we eat. My father would be furious if I would be sitting in any place other than the dining table to eat food. But today we sit anywhere, anyhow, and eat food. We drink at any time. We drink any type of drinks. There is an ad going on TV right now where a girl comes from school. She has her school bag on her shoulders. She's in a school uniform. She goes straight to the refrigerator, takes out a drink. I think it is Sprite, and she puts the bottle to her mouth. What happened to cleanliness? What happened to washing your hands and feet? What happened to changing your clothes? What happened to hygiene? What happened even in the current situation of Corona? And when you are talking of sanitization and all these things, you are seeing this ad. How will people take sanitization and cleanliness seriously? Again, look at our sleeping patterns. We sleep at any time, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night. So how do you think you will have discipline in the life? And then the mother is struggling to child, she is being talked to. We have formed habits and are now slaves of habits. Here are some tips for parents. Inculcate discipline, waking, bathing, eating, sleeping times. If your child is still in that age where he can be influenced by you, please do not sacrifice discipline. Pampering is one thing, discipline is another. Give physical tasks continuously. No, let the child do his at least his work himself. Folding of clothes, preparing the bed, keeping the toothbrush, toothpaste in its appropriate place. Let the child do these small tasks at home, not only for himself, give him some tasks which he will do for others. The doorbell of the flat rings. Many people run helter-skelter. They will hoping that somebody else will open the door. Teach your children to go and open the door. Don't escape that task. It is part and parcel of your family's job to open the door when the doorbell rings. Don't run away from that. Do not pamper unnecessarily. Visit underprivileged children and aged people with your child. It cultivates selflessness. It teaches them to give. You want to celebrate your child's birthday, take him to an underprivileged house and feed the children there or feed the adults there. A birthday gift of a cake or a chocolate or a dress is less meaningful than the act of giving. Be an example and communicate why you are what you are. And most of the damage is done by parents who are bad examples for their children. You are in the house, your landline rings, and you tell your child, "Unko bol do, main ghar mein nahi hu." You have actively taught your child to tell lies. Your child falls down on the floor, you try to cuddle the child, give him comfort. The child continues to bawl, crying loudly. You go to the place where the child has fallen down and you stomp on the floor saying, "Okay, this floor hurt you. I have now beaten the floor. Stop crying." Inadvertently, you have taught your child revenge. If you are hurt by somebody, you go and hurt that somebody. So you have created a violent society. Try to see violent movies. In the movies, one hero can beat 10 villains. In real life, that doesn't happen. In real life, the villains are the truth. The heroes are not the truth. Please understand that. So you be an example for your child because what you do is being silently watched by your child and he picks up things from you. Do not be tense about being a parent. Do not be too strict with your children because when you are too strict, it is your ambition that you are driving. Do not be too lenient with your children, which is what the current society is. No punishments. Punishment is necessary. There is a beautiful saying in English, spare the rod and spoil the child. When necessary, punishment is to be administered. Cultivate a sense of purpose in them. Life is meaningful. And purpose can be fulfilled again through utilization of time and space. Don't allow your child to squander time and space. Don't allow him to keep things helter-skelter. Show him the importance of neatness and tidiness. Insist on it. Don't be lenient on neatness and tidiness. Don't be lenient on the child spending inordinately long hours on Cartoon Network, mobile games, and late nights on gadgets. Allocate sufficient time for that, rational time, inculcating the sense of utilization of time and space. Create an atmosphere of reward and punishment so that they understand the law of cause and effect. The universe operates under the law of cause and effect. You like it or not. You plant a coconut, you will get a coconut. Teach your child that he will get in life only what he deserves. What he deserves will depend on what he does. Right from childhood, inculcate it in the child. Having expectations is not bad. When expectations get fulfilled, celebrate. When expectations are unfulfilled, learn happily. Don't show disappointment. When your expectations are unfulfilled, something went wrong. So learn what went wrong and try to redo it. And there is a time where you have to learn to accept things as they are. There are certain things which cannot be cured, then they must be endured happily. Today, children express anger at the drop of the hat. They have not been trained to accept things because they cannot be changed. Teach joy, gratitude, respect, and empathy. And that can only be taught if you have joy in your life, you have gratitude for all that you get. You opened your eyes, your eyelids opened. Are you thankful that your eyelids opened in the morning when you woke up? We don't consider these things as being thankful to. We take it for granted. It's morning, I have to wake up. My eyes have to open. Okay, your eyelids opened. You can see, your eyes have vision. Be thankful, your eyes have vision, your tongue has taste, your nose has smell, your ear. You become desperate when you lose these abilities. So have joy, gratitude for all the blessings that you have in life. Once you have joy and gratitude, automatically you will have respect. Empathize with others. You are privileged, others are not so privileged. Don't ridicule them, don't mock them. Empathize the woman who comes as your bai in the house. Give her the respect, at least for her age, if not for her economic status or her education. When you start doing this as a parent, your child is automatically influenced. You are the idol, the ideal and the idol for your child. Teach cooperation and collective good, horribly missing in society today. The only time people come together is for some damage or some morcha or for some satyagraha. People very reluctantly come forward for collective good. This subject, and I know I must have triggered a lot of questions, so it is better to answer pointed questions instead of me talking a lot of theory. So if you have questions, Kashmir, I hope there is time for questions.
Yes, wonderful session, Pravin sir, as always. You just rocked it, and I'm so thankful to you for guiding the parents. Yes, if anyone has any questions, sir, if you could just remove the sharing and we can see the audience, then we
Okay,
can.
before I remove that, thank you. And this is my contact. So in case somebody needs
Yes.
anything to talk to me, then this is it. And I think Kashmira can share this with you, my information.
Yes, we will put the contact number in the chat box as well, so people can take it.
So, okay, so I have stopped sharing.
Yes. So all those who have any questions, you all can just raise your virtual hands and we will unmute you one by one and we will take your questions. Just before we start the question and answers, I just had a question for Pravin sir. Sir, you have given a lot of guidance. Could you also just let us know about the classes, if any, do you hold for teaching the parents these important values? Because as it was very clear during the session that it is very important for us to first, have correct values before we start inculcating them in the children. So do you conduct any classes specifically for that? If you could just throw some light, then we can take the questions.
Yeah, we conduct a course which is a flagship course called Life and Breath, where we teach people how to deal with yourself. The only person you can correct in life is yourself. If you have notions that you can correct somebody else, please get rid of those notions. You can't correct somebody else. You can only correct yourself. Now, what are the areas in which you can correct yourself? You can correct yourself as far as your health is concerned, as far as your mind is concerned. So we have a course which teaches you how to become healthy, how to become peaceful and in control of your mind. And we also have certain laws of the universe. And when I say laws, laws are infallible. It is we who break the rules and that defies the law. And therefore, we suffer punishments from the universe. We suffer punishment in the form of disease, in the form of losses, in the form of stresses. So, how to deal with life is a flagship course called Life and Breath. Kashmira will share with you our website, which is pratibimtrust.com, and you will get all the details of what we do. We are a charitable organization. We do a lot of charity work also. So everything is there on the website. So I don't want to take your question answer time by talking about my course. So Kashmira will share that with you.
Okay, just in brief, sir, how many weeks is this course? And if parents want to join, can they directly get in touch with you on your number or shall we give some other number to them?
Everything is there on the website. So you can join a new
Okay,
batch.
so we share the website on the WhatsApp groups. If anybody, we've put the link for today's class on other groups as well. So if anybody is not a part of the WhatsApp group, I'll just share my number also in the chat box. Just WhatsApp me and I'll add you to our group. And over there, we will post the recording. Sir, I'm sure you're fine posting today's class recording on the WhatsApp.
Absolutely, no issues.
we will post the recording as well as we will post about the website details, and then people can get in touch with you directly. Okay, so now we move on to the question and answers. So all those who have questions, please raise your virtual hands and we will give you the unmute, and one by one you can unmute yourself and ask the questions. Please raise your virtual hands, or you can raise your normal hands as well, and you can ask the questions. Yes. No questions? So are people taken aback a lot? So there are no questions? Yes, Roshni Ved, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi.
Yes,
Can you
Roshni.
hear me?
Yeah, if you could put on your video, it would be great.
I
You could
can't hear,
speak to
sir.
us. Okay, never mind. Go ahead with your question.
Okay. My question is, I have a teenager, okay, with major tantrum issues, okay, and otherwise just suddenly just closing up, like, shutting down. So how do you deal with that? She doesn't want to talk to me. She is more comfortable talking to her friends. And especially in these lockdown, online times, it's more easier to talk to your friends just typing and chatting than to actually speak to your mom who's in front of you. So I can't hear, sir. Is there a problem with my
Yes, so you need to unmute yourself. It's a very common question and a common problem. So I'm sure sir will guide you.
Especially she's 14. So I was wondering how to deal with.
So Roshni, she is at a stage where she has started expressing herself. And
Accepted.
yeah, she's looking for time and space. Finds you outdated and intruding in her time and space. Yeah. So what she's basically doing is telling you without actually communicating with you that you are intruding in my privacy.
Others can keep their others please keep yourselves on mute. Others can please keep themselves on mute. Do not unmute yourself unless you need to. So you can unmute yourself and answer the
Rashmi, you can unmute now because I have muted everyone. So the disturbance is less. You can unmute, Roshni, you're not on. I have muted you, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I'm willing to listen.
We come back to those two important words, expectations and acceptance. You have expectations from your daughter that she communicates with you as a mother, as a daughter should communicate with the mother.
Yes.
But for some reason, you have allowed her a lot of freedom to be who she is today. And suddenly today, you want to impose a certain brand of discipline, which is completely unacceptable to her because her peers don't follow that brand of discipline and she is more guided by her peers.
Yes.
So allow her that space. You have to accept that this is her environment today. But when I say you allow her that, it doesn't mean you have to forego. You need to monitor to see whether she is into anything wrong or bad, which will affect her life in future. And you need to monitor, and that monitoring is very simple. You can see it in the behavior. When the behavior starts being surreptitious, suspicious, then something is amiss. How does she relate with her father?
Not a lot. She doesn't communicate.
So she's not communicating with parents at all.
No.
So you as a unit, mother and father, you need to schedule a session with her where you what is bugging her. And you have to address it as an adult and in a conversational tone and not as a, you have to talk as a friend and not as a parent. At this stage, she is not willing to accept parents. She is willing to accept.
I want to try and make that transition because I understand as a, she doesn't want to listen to her mom. She wants to
Rashmi,
listen as a friend.
one rule you must always remember. When you say, I want to try, it will never happen.
No, transition as a mom to a friend because we
Roshni,
understand now.
listen very carefully. Roshni, listen very carefully to what I'm saying. The minute you say, I want to try, you will never succeed. You must say, I want to do it. And I will do it. There is fire and positivity in I want to do it. And there is a lot of helplessness is I will try to do it. When you say I try to do it, you have already given an excuse. I tried, but she didn't listen. So don't ever use the word I will try. You say I will do it. I will go for it.
Correct.
If it means you and your husband have to do it collectively. You have to do it together. You have to make her sit, telling her that we need to talk to you and we need 1 hour of your time. So tell me when it is convenient for you to sit with us for 1 hour because we need to talk as a family. And there is no escape route in that. Yeah. So you make it that you have a need to talk to her. Whether she has a need to talk to you or not is not the issue. You have a need to talk. You meaning the father and the mother. And then you need to try and understand what is bugging her about you. So you make her speak out. What is it that you don't like about us?
She will listen. She will listen even for an hour or for she will listen for even an hour, but she will never talk. That's the problem.
You have to be persistent with your question. What is it that is bugging you? That I need to know. Because if I need to change, I will do it for you. But if I don't know how to change, how can I do it? What is it? Now, if you like something and I cook something else, you will not eat, obviously, because I don't know that you don't like it. So you have to tell me what you like, then I can cook accordingly. The same thing applies. Unless you tell me what you are expecting from me, how can I change? And you are not a dharmashala that people come and bed and breakfast and walk out. You're a family. Don't treat it as a dharmashala.
Correct.
So these things, certain places you have to be strict. When I say strict, it doesn't mean you have to be violent. It doesn't mean you have to be aggressive. People misunderstand strictness for aggression and violence. Now that's the surest way of losing your child. Yeah. So first thing first, you need to have a session with her. Now, if you feel you are incapable of having a session with her, you need a counselor who knows how to communicate with that age group. You need counseling. And maybe she is now accustomed to opening out to outsiders more easily than to you. So with a counselor, the chances she will open up are much higher. And this is not uncommon. This is quite common nowadays. I see a lot of parents seeking assistance from counselors because children just bottle up, shut up as far as parents are concerned. So I can fully understand what you are going through. So here are a couple of things. You try first on your own so that it can never be said you transfer the responsibility straight to a counselor.
Right.
Yeah, you first make an attempt. Okay, you don't want to talk to us, but we want to help you. And I think at this stage in your life, you need guidance as to what you should be in the future because you have no experience of life and you will probably pick up the wrong road. So we would like to give you assistance through a counselor. Be upfront, be honest with your child. Never do anything behind the back.
Right.
Say whatever you have in your mind in a straightforward conversational tone, not like a superior talking to an inferior. To talk one-to-one, face-to-face. And say, be brave enough to talk whatever you have to talk. Silence doesn't communicate anything.
Correct. Problem is she doesn't even demand anything. She doesn't even ask for anything. If food is not good, I don't want to eat. So it's a understood. I have to understand that this is not acceptable and not give it next time. That types. So
So suppose you
yeah,
don't
I
give
guess
food, what will happen? Suppose you don't give
she's
food, what,
fine. She's fine.
for how long?
I don't know. I haven't tried it, but she's
So,
fine.
she's fine because you are always struggling to make things, make amends. And she
Yeah,
knows that. So she has taken you for granted.
right.
And this is what we parents do. We cultivate that security bubble around them that they know my parents can, they dare not do anything that will hurt. So I can be what I want. My parents have to kowtow my line.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's a good idea that आज मैं खाना नहीं बनाया because yesterday you didn't eat.
Hmm.
अच्छा बनाने गए तो बोलो क्या बनाओ. Then say, I won't give you food. Then you cook food. But one day you don't cook food. Yesterday you didn't eat, so I didn't cook today.
Hmm. Correct. I'll try.
And there is no human being who has no need.
Yes.
She will need clothes, she will need books, she will need articles. You are the supplier. You have that control. So you make it conditional. That don't take this to be a dharmashala that I will behave the way I want. That message has to go in a gentle way.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Thank
answer,
you.
Fred
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Roshni, for your question. We have someone put up a question in the chat box that she brings up her child. Yeah, so she's written, I'm in my 40s. I raise my children like I was raised. Something
read that.
which, yeah. So, sir, could you answer her question?
There is no question there. She has made a statement. I am in my 40s. I raise my children like I was raised. My children are unlike their peers and I'm proud of them. But people call me a Hitler and family do so too. And I often hear today's children are made differently and so need to be brought up differently. Well, if you are happy with the way the child is brought up and if your child is happy with you, you have done something right.
I think the child and the family is not happy with her. By what I understand from the question, they call her a Hitler is what she's trying to say. And I guess she's trying to ask that, is that the right way to do it? Or maybe she doesn't like to do the shosha of the society. She wants to keep it grounded. So is that the correct way? She does not want to make her children techno savvy, is what she's written in her next message. So is that the correct way? I mean, being a Hitler and not allowing the children to be techno savvy and then thinking that they are grounded. Is that the correct way, sir?
See, life is about joy. The whole purpose of being in life is to be in joy. Now, being in joy does not mean you be irresponsible. And being in joy also does not mean that I am in joy and you are not in joy. So it is a mutual joy. So if your family is not in joy because of certain patterns that you have established, then you need to dilute those patterns a little bit and accommodate your family.
Yes.
You are not going to drive an organization. You are running a family. You are not driving an organization where you are the CEO, you call the shots. So if there is no joy, then the family will ultimately disintegrate because everybody is seeking
Right.
joy. Why are we working and looking for money? Because we think that money will bring us the joy in the articles that I need to buy. That necessarily need not be true. But that is a conception that the society has, that I need the money to buy the articles that will give me joy. The key factor here is we are all looking for joy. So if certain things are diluting that joy or parting that joy or bottling that joy, then I need to do a little bit of introspection. You may be happy with the way you have brought up the children. Are your children happy? That's an important question because ultimately it is their life they have to live. If they are
Very
missing
right.
in the society today, Then after you are gone, they will be having a miserable life trying to adjust to the society to which they were not tuned.
Right, right. And
So
then they may
there
blame you
has to,
later.
yeah. Now there has to be a little bit of give and take because that is also a law. You give some, you take some. It cannot be a one-way street. What is happening currently is either it's a one-way street from the parent or it's a one-way street from the child. And one-way streets never work. There has to be a balance. The whole
Right,
universe is in balance. If the universe was not in balance, Earth would have been crashing on the sun and the moon would have crashed on Earth. But the entire system is existing in balance for millions of years. So we need to also balance our lives in our society. What we are seeing in society is a reflection of the family. We are seeing unrest in the society because there is unrest in the family. There is unrest in the family because there is unrest in the individual mind. We are not at peace with ourselves. We are not at peace with ourselves because we don't understand how to deal with life. Everything boils down to lack of understanding.
right, right,
And it's not an adequate answer because the time does not allow me to give you adequate answers. These are huge subjects. These could be sessions. We could have sessions on this subject alone.
each question could be a long session because these are very intricate topics. But
And they are
we'll just
highly individualized topic because the same problem cannot be dealt with in the same manner in different families.
exactly very
One
true.
child is
Very
not communicating with me. Two families may have the same problem, but it cannot be tackled in the same manner because the reason why one child is not communicating with the parent could be entirely different from the reason why another child is not communicating with his parents.
true. Right.
The set of circumstances vary.
Correct. True. We'll go on to the next question. I think some Irani had a question. They had raised their hands. Irani, could you unmute yourself and ask
Yeah,
your question?
yeah. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Zareen here. I have two kids, a daughter who is about 19 and a son who is 10 years old. So the thing is, my daughter, she's a little, I mean, she's studious, but then after she does her work and all, she's on the tab and phone all the time. And my son is mischievous. Like he doesn't want to do anything else, but he wants the time on the phone and all that. So, and then every time that I try and correct him, he's like, "You are not correcting my sister. She's being watching the mobile and stuff like that,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I'm not given the permission to do all those things." So
You can
that
joke
is
with
how
them
it
and say that when you become the judge, you pass comments on me. Till then,
is.
let's not have your comments about me. You can joke that. Huh? Very loud, you can tell him that stop passing judgment. You worry about your life because your sister will not live with you. You will live with somebody else. So you have to manage your life. Let your sister worry about her life. So first learn to look at yourself. You're pointing finger at the sister, just turn your wrist. Three fingers are pointing at you. Make him turn the wrist. Ask him to point a finger at the sister, then turn his wrist and say, three fingers are pointing at you. Look at yourself three times before you look at your sister. Do it in a right, friendly manner. Don't try to teach. No, he's already saying you are trying to teach me, but you are not teaching my sister. So he's getting that feel that you are teaching. So have fun with him. Okay, you point a finger at your sister. She is doing the same thing that I am doing. You are not telling her anything. Point finger at your sister, then catch his wrist and turn it around. See, three times look at yourself before once you look at your sister.
Yeah, but he is not at all disciplined. My daughter, otherwise, overall, she's disciplined. She knows that she has to do something, she'll complete it, and then she'll do whatever she wants. But my son is not at all disciplined.
So even that can be a comparison for him. You are pointing to your sister, you pick up her good qualities also. She completes things.
Oh, all that is being tried and tested, but it just doesn't work. He's still indisciplined. Like,
So are you saying you are
so,
helpless?
yeah, sort of.
Ah, then you need outside help. When you feel helpless, that I cannot make a headway, then you need outside help.
Okay. So counseling on
See,
the little one.
for example, I'll give you an example. Today's school mathematics. If I cannot teach my child mathematics and if he's not doing well in school, I seek outside help. I send him to a coaching class where mathematics is taught. Because I'm not in a position to teach mathematics. I'm helpless. So I seek help. So there's nothing wrong in seeking help in different subjects. You can't be an expert in all subjects. Okay. And you are honest enough to admit that yes, you are helpless. That's a great beginning because many people feel, no, I can correct my child. And they know they are hopelessly wrong in that. But at least you are honest enough to say, I cannot, I am helpless. Then quickly you should seek help. He must be relating to somebody. He must be looking up to somebody.
Not that I know of.
So probably you need to find out. In school also, he might be looking up to somebody.
I'll try to figure that out. In fact, I have kept him for counseling.
Every child has somebody to look up to. Known or unknown. When I say unknown, it could be a TV personality, it could be an actor, it could be a sports person. Unknown to your but then every child looks up to somebody. I'm not talking about right or wrong, but they look up to somebody. So when you know that you can't deal with that situation, you need to take help.
Okay. Fine.
And
Thank you.
Vancouver, and most welcome.
Thank you, sir. This was a very good point that many parents struggle to correct the children by themselves. But when you can't do it, it's always better to take an
And
external
the
help.
earlier you do it, the better. The earlier you do it, the better. Especially when the children are in the adolescent stage, it's still possible to correct them. Once they become hardened adults, then the case is almost gone.
Right.
My granddaughter is in Vancouver with her mother and 2-year-old, and she can listen everybody and everything fine, but can't speak. She can speak few words. Her parents can figure out what she wants to say, but we don't understand a single word. Is it harmful in her progress? Yeah, she wants to express, but she is unable to express because her expressions feel blocked. So probably the parents are fighting in her presence. I'm just hazarding a guess. So that has impacted her subconscious. Usually parents are not careful what they speak and how they speak in the presence of the child, and that can have a very damaging effect on the psychology of the child. And it reveals in different patterns. Some child would develop a skin disease. It erupts in the form of urticaria. Some children would find stuttering or stammering because they are afraid to speak, so it becomes an automatic defense mechanism. I'm stuttering, I'm stammering. Certain people have overcrowded thoughts. The speech speed does not match the speed of the thoughts, so words don't come out of the mouth. But there is some psychological damage that is happening in the environment in which the child is growing up.
Right, very true. We take one last question. Hemal, you had a question, you had raised your hand.
No, there's one more question. I have a 7-year-old daughter. Due to lockdown, homework pressure is building. She refuses to do it and school expects it to be completed and sent by end of the day. So it's becoming a continuous fight and things are beginning to get unpleasant between us as we keep fighting. And she ends up just sitting in front of the book. Many parents don't agree with this line of thinking, but allow the child to fail. I know it means the loss of 1 year. But unless the child realizes that her friends have gone ahead because she did not complete her homework, she is never going to do homework because she feels that it is your work she is doing and not her work. She has not taken ownership of that work. But when she sees her friends getting promoted and going up and she remaining behind, that's going to make her think that, oh, I didn't do my work. Yes, the distance between the kids and the parents has started increasing because parents didn't pay enough attention to the kids when they were small. Now suddenly when they have started expressing themselves and their expressions are not in tune with your expectations, you have started noticing it. So it is always a good idea. The family that prays together stays together. So you must inculcate a system of prayer where the whole family prays together. So you must have a special time for prayer. The prayer need not be some Sanskrit shlok or something. It can be a simple English language, 2, 3 sentences. I thank the Lord for the food in my house. I thank the Lord for the clothes on my body. I thank the Lord for the shelter, roof over my head. It could be simple prayers, but you create your own family prayers. I thank the Lord for my father. I thank the Lord for my mother. I thank the Lord for my child. I thank the Lord for everything in the house, for my toothbrush, for my toothpaste. You know, you inculcate the habit of gratitude. Once the gratitude concept starts taking shape in the mind of the child, see a massive change in the outlook of the child. Today, the whole society is ungrateful. We have strife in the society because we are ungrateful people. We look at us, we criticize the government, we are getting drinking water, getting food. Even in the pandemic, we have never been deprived of food and water and electricity. And yet, the only thing we talk about the government is bad things. How do you think the child will react when you are constantly criticizing things? It becomes part and parcel of the child's journey in growing up that nothing is good, everything is bad, which is not true. There are a lot of good things. We as a country are experiencing a lot of good things. We are not courageous enough to acknowledge, or we are miserly enough not to acknowledge.
Yes, that's again a very good point by you, sir. It is a said saying that you cannot remove the negative qualities from a person that easily, but if you start putting positive qualities in the children, the negatives will automatically drop. We normally concentrate on removing some or the other negative quality from the child, but if you start inculcating some positive values in them, then automatically the negative values will start dropping out from the child. And for that, you need to first put those positive values in your own self, right? Yes.
Certain things which my mother did for me, I remember distinctly. If I did not do my homework, there would be no dinner for me. Unless you finish the homework, no dinner. It was a rule. Show me the homework done and then sit for dinner. And I used to rebel. I remember a period when for 2 days I did not have lunch and dinner. And then I realized the misery. And my mother was relentless. She said, unless you do that, घर में खाना नहीं है. घर में खाना उसके लिए है जो अपना काम ढंग से करता है.
Right.
So it sounds very harsh, and at that time I felt very miserable. But today I realize the value of those lessons.
Very true. Yes. Hemal, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I have attended your this Life and Breath online classes 5, I think so. It was batch number 5. Sir, my daughter, she is 17 years old. She was very studious. She always stood first in the school. But after her 10th, that is in 2020, immediately there was a lockdown. And then she had a lots of expectation, like she will go to the college, she will enjoy with her friends and all that. Expectations are like now she is home online, and I have seen her the change in her behavior. Maybe this is a lockdown effect or I don't know. Nowadays, she has become too demanding. Like one demand is fulfilled, then she is up with the other demand. Like I want headphones. Okay, it was necessary for the online session. I bought for her. Then I want this. I want that. She had even planned after her 12th, she will go to the abroad for studies and what things are needed. Even without asking, "Okay, can I do that?" I mean, I have seen that the change in her, and I don't know, and like how to deal with her mood swings and all. She was not like this
Your
in the school
problem is
life.
very easy, Hemal. Your problem is very easy because she is demanding. Because
Yeah,
demanding, that means she's communicating. Now, a demand is a contract. A demand can be fulfilled subject to she fulfilling certain aspects of your demands. Okay, I'm accepting your demand if you fulfill my demand.
Okay.
So
And I,
inculcate in her the concept of contract. And you tell her that when you go to the market, will the vegetable vendor give you vegetables for free? No, you have to give him something in return for the vegetables. So I'm going to give you something for which you have to give me this in return. This is the price.
okay.
In life, you have to learn to pay the price. So pay the price.
And sir, I've seen her like she's comparing. I'm a teacher. So if I do anything for my children, like in a physical school, we have activities and all. So like she's comparing. You are doing for the children. You are not doing for me. You are
Yeah,
like,
answer is very simple. The school pays me. I get something in return, so I have to do it for them. Will you pay me
even though,
in your behavior? Then I will do for you also.
okay, I do it for her, but then she starts
You
saying,
cultivate the sense of contract in her.
okay, okay, sir.
The
I'll
world
definitely
operates
do it.
on the law of give and take. It cannot be. You ask her to only inhale without exhaling. Can she only inhale without exhaling? Do this experiment with. So even if you have to take breath from the universe, you have to give out your breath.
Yeah, okay.
You can't simply go on taking. You have to give something in returns. So, okay, you want these things from me. I want these things from you. I'm operating the law of the universe.
Okay. So definitely I'll do it that with her, and I hope a positive change will come in her.
And do it without anger.
Okay, okay.
One thing that will damage children is anger. Never do things with anger. Do it as a matter of fact conversation. Because she's not respecting me, she's not listening to me, I am angry. That will never work.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
for
sir.
the answer, sir.
Welcome.
Vandana, you can unmute yourself and ask. Vandana.
Yeah, good evening. And thank you
Good
for the
evening.
given to me. See, I have a 8-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter.
Mhm.
And 8-year-old son will not sit for his classes if I don't sit with him. He will not write or do his homework if I don't sit with him and make him do. So I'm finding a problem because I have to sit for his classes. He's in 3rd standard. I have to make him do homework. I have to make him do classwork, make him do assignments.
Do you
And
cook?
type, ADHD child.
Do you
And
cook?
he compared,
Vandana, do you cook?
yeah, I used to cook, yes, but I do have a cook now.
Yeah. So one day you be in the kitchen and you cook, and you ask him to stay with you throughout your cooking. If he's not standing with you for cooking, you will not cook.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Let him experience the same thing, no? As he's making you experience that if you sit with me, then only I will do. So, okay, you also stand with me, then I will cook. Does he have a favorite that you used to cook?
Sorry?
Does he have a favorite dish that you used to cook?
Yeah, he has, yes.
So tell him that today I want to make this dish for you. Would you like it? Yes. But one condition, you will stand beside me while I'm cooking.
That he will be happy to.
So make him stand next to you
Anything
while
other
you're
than
cooking.
sitting down and looking at the screen, he will be happy to.
Then do it for 7 days continuously, and then let me see whether he's happy standing next to you while you're cooking for 7 days.
Okay.
Be relentless about certain things. Be relentless. The message has to be given that it is not a one-way street, that you will take, and demand, and you will not do anything. That will not work.
Yeah, it's highly demanding and it's kind of stresses me up. So I'm not able to do my work.
So don't pamper him out of love. That love is damaging him. We all need children, but our love damages our children.
Yeah, true. But then in a lot of ways, my husband and I don't see eye to eye because I feel we should discipline the children. We should be strict with them.
That's another issue. The children are very smart. They can pick out who is on their side, and then they will go to that person.
Yes, this is a problem I'm facing.
So you need to sort that out first between you and your husband, because you should present the same face, whether in agreement or in disagreement.
Correct, correct. Yeah, right.
As you come across to the child, you should be one entity. The minute sense that okay, इसमें गड़बड़ है, तो okay, I will go to my dad, my mother, to isolate my mother.
Mm. True, true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I guess we've answered all questions. AD, who's joined from AD, your question has been answered. Do you have any other question or?
Yes, I would like to talk. Good evening, everybody. Praveen sir, your session is really very nice, and I love the
Thank you.
suggestions that you've been giving. So actually, since first I was a little hesitant to talk, so I put up my question, but since there is so much insight, I think my question was not very clear in understanding. I have two teenagers, 15 and 16 years old, and I brought them up just the way my parents brought them up, which was pretty strict, just the way you said, full of gratitude. If you didn't have an afternoon meal, it's okay. You could have the same thing in the night, but till you don't finish that, you don't get a new thing. And I followed all of that. And today, I do not regret the way my children have been brought up for the last 15, 16 years. But the society around me always keeps telling me, you're such a Hitler. This is not the way you can bring up today's children. Why are you so strict? And in the bargain, what I've seen is because they're full of gratitude and discipline, very often when they go to a party or when they are surrounded with other children, because we do not live in India, so we do not have the opportunity to associate with children of their age. So the only time they meet is in a party or in school, and school is when I don't see them. But if they have to climb on a desk or a chair to bring down something from the notice board, they'll make sure their shoes are taken off and then they stand. So they have their peers laughing, what are you doing? Just get up, why are you wasting so much time? But my children can't do that.
Correct.
If they are in a surrounding with friends, if we've gone out for a party or a picnic, I see them totally aghast because they cannot, their children around them are full of show sharama, just acting, pretending to be those very smart people. But, you know, I don't know if I'm coming across the right way, but they feel
Absolutely
out of
right.
place.
I would, if I was you, I would compliment your children immediately for being what they are.
So they can't waste food. So if they go to McDonald's and if they have,
Yeah,
if
I
they've
will
got pride,
compliment your children left, right, and center at every opportunity because they are different from the other brats.
so is it okay? Or am I
okay.
faltering
Absolutely. No,
somewhere?
no. As long as you are not beating them up or punishing them and you are inculcating values in a gentle but firm manner, that's all right.
But then why are they so, why do they find it so difficult with peers? Because just now they are with
Naturally,
me.
they will
Soon they
find
leave my house. Then what?
naturally they will find it difficult with peers because the same age group is not behaving the same. It is like a footballer on a cricket pitch.
Correct.
So
Because often
you
they
tell
come
them,
home.
to be proud footballers. They don't have to be a cricketer. They are footballers,
Okay.
be footballers and be proud about it. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. The cricketers will have a bat in their hand and they'll bat the ball with a bat. You are skillful in deflecting the ball with your foot. I don't think I would worry too much. I mean, society is not going to come around to help you when you are in need. It is
And
your
even social media,
Hmm.
they are hardly on, so they are not on social media besides WhatsApp. And so when they're in a crowd and people talk about TikTok and this and that, they are like dummies just sitting and, like, why are we here? What is happening?
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, TikTok is not life. Facebook is not life. As long as they are doing well in their studies and extracurricular activities, you should be handsomely complimenting them. Their sense of esteem will be raised up by your compliments.
Okay.
Don't be miserly in complimenting them.
Okay. Because I thought I was wrongly parenting them and that's why they
There is-
can't.
Remember one thing, there is no right and wrong. There is only cause and effect. You cultivated your children in a particular manner. Whatever is their behavior today is the effect of your cultivation. Now, are you regretting your cultivation? If not, then start complimenting. Don't be conjuice in complimenting.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
I hope we've answered all questions. Thank you very much for your valuable time, Pravin sir. And thank you parents for joining in. Tomorrow we have a session with a counselor and she is going to show some drawing analysis and knowing your children through drawing analysis. That's a wonderful topic that she's going to take. This is pertaining to the issues the children are facing. She's going to take that. So we will put up the link on the group and you all can join in. It's tomorrow at the same time, 5:30 to 6:30. So, but this is also again only for parents, not for children. You can carry some drawings of your children. She may pick up one and analyze that. So see you all tomorrow. And once again, thank you very much, Pravin sir. I will please share your website details with me and I will put it up on the groups.
I have already put the website on the chat. So
Yeah, if you could, yeah, sure. Thank you. I'll take it from the
thank
chat.
you all of you.
Thank you,
and
sir.
all
Thank
the
you very
best.
much, sir.
All the best, all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Kashmira.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Delna and Kashmira.
Thank you all.
And thank you very much.